Fearful avoidance mixed messages are kind of like an iceberg. What you see on the surface is only part of the story. And once you understand what's hidden underneath, you'll know whether you're dealing with a passing fear or a deeper incompatibility that could sink the relationship. Let's talk about that in this video. Hi, I'm Katya Morozova. I'm an attachment coach and certified NARM practitioner. I help people become secure and create lasting relationships. If you'd like to explore one-on-one coaching, you can book a session on my website right up here. Fearful avoidance can swing from future-focused and loving, making plans for months and years into the future, to pulling back, doubting your motives, or even shutting down completely. Now, from the outside, it can be really confusing and even contradictory, but behaviors can often be misleading. Behind those behaviors, fearful avoidance feel overwhelmed and experience a lot of emotional flooding. One of the reasons that fearful avoidance get so overwhelmed is because they have deep fears around setting boundaries in relationships. Usually, these boundaries are around the need for both closeness and for space, because this is the core dynamic that the fearful avoidance wounds circulate around. Because often when they were children in their primary years, they had a caregiver who was either frightened of the child or frightening, like abusive, aggressive, or a chaotic household. So what that creates is this internal dynamic, because children are dependent on their caregivers, is this: I want to come close because I need you to take care of me, and I need, nurturing and soothing. And I'm also fearful of you, and I need to pull away at the same time. And what this creates is this impossible situation in that child, where they're sort of toggling and moving towards while also moving away at the same time. And you might actually see that playing out in their adult relationships, because generally attachment styles are stable throughout our lifetime. And they've done research on this, that longitudinal research where children have been tracked from a young age to the time when they're 18, and they found that those attachment styles have stayed the same. So all this to say, this fear runs pretty deep. And because this fear runs so deep, and it's such a vulnerable and critical fear, it is often a blind spot for the fearful avoidant. And it acts as fuel for this overwhelm. It's like a cycle. I'm starting to feel close. I'm starting to feel attached to you. And that makes me inherently scared. So I'm scared to be vulnerable and share that maybe I have this sort of strange boundary because I'm all of a sudden fearful, even if that boundary is really subtle. So I let things build up until I reach the overwhelm, which is the only internal signal that I can really hear and trust. And then I push away, and it relieves that overwhelm that was so unbearable. And then the cycle continues over and over. Now, these first 2 points could shift in a relationship if they get worked on. The fearful avoidant can work on building emotional resilience and set boundaries to help them stay connected in the relationship. But what if this push-pull behavior is covering up something even deeper? Sometimes everything you see above this level is kind of a distraction from the biggest challenge that the fearful avoidant struggles with, that drives the mood swings and mixed messages. This deepest level is the conflict within their identity. This is the dissonance between what they need and want in a relationship and the shame that they feel about actually owning and being able to work towards the desire. So for example, they might really want a family, but when it comes to actually having a family and the responsibilities that come with that, and the reality of having that, and that it might actually be difficult to attain if you're struggling, for instance, with trauma symptoms, or you're still in the thick of processing your trauma, and it makes it difficult for you to show up for yourself or in your relationships, well, that's a lot for a person to be dealing with. So that dissonance between this is where I am and this is what I want, and that's a really painful thing to come to terms with. Or they might really want a relationship, but they feel bad and defective when they meet a nice person who actually shows up for them consistently, and wonder how they're going to live up to the expectations and the responsibilities of that relationship. So what does someone do if they have this storm constantly brewing in their head? Well, and while they don't do this consciously, their attachment system and their nervous system does this really great job of protecting them by keeping them in this push and pull cycle, which actually takes the attention away from their internal world and sort of resolving this internal conflict that they have, and onto this behavioral problem that takes up all of the space in the relationship that both partners can fixate on. If you're with someone who's struggling at this deepest level, the hard truth is that you can't change someone's relationship capacity overnight. And accepting where they are is going to be in your best interest. But if you're in a relationship with someone who's sort of in those two first layers, they're dealing with overwhelm and emotional dysregulation, then there's definitely something that you can do. With the right approach, you can work through those challenges and you can guide your relationship forward. In my upcoming training, I'll show you how to pinpoint exactly where your fearful avoidant is on this spectrum, this iceberg spectrum we've been talking about today, and the subtle shifts that you can make that can make it feel safer for the FA to stay than it is to leave. Something that my clients tell me is that they appreciate my honesty in our work together, and that is what you can expect from this beta training. I'm not going to sugarcoat things for you. I'm going to tell you the honest truth, and we're going to answer live questions and talk about real situations, so definitely don't miss out.